So are we ready, Ollie? Do you know what I'm doing? Because I don't know what I'm doing. So I hope my director's got it all under control. You actually look like you're about to fall asleep. So is that a fair assumption of what's going to happen? Hi there, it's Anna Rosie Duck Designs here. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. After the marathon of my last video with the little baby card in the pizza box, I'm aiming for something a little bit more simpler, but I am going to sort of step it up a little bit. So I'm using the Petal Designer Series paper. I just wanted to share that with you. There's some gorgeous floral elements in this paper and a whole variety of colours to match everybody's taste. I'm saving that one just for the moment. On the back there's some pretty musical notes which really make good background papers, and the same can be said for all of these. So we're going to be using this one today. I'd say these are just ideal for just a little background layer of paper and then putting some more detail on top of that. But what I'm actually using, apart from this one, is this. Now I have to say I love this because this is basically a card front made up for you with very little else to do, so you can make a very simple, quick but effective card. So you've effectively got 4 larger ones and then these 3 little ones which make really good little note cards, and then this little strip across the top here, you can cut that at obviously various lengths and put them inside your card to just pretty up the inside of the card as well. So it's a very flexible sheet of paper, this, and brilliant if you need a card in a hurry. As I said, there's lots of different colours in here. So we've got Crumb Cake, Daffodil Delight, Merry Merlot, Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy, Pear Pizzazz, Rocco Rose, Soft Suede and Very Vanilla. So a whole multitude of colours there to really get your creativity going. So I'm using this one to make, unfortunately, a get well card because sadly one of our friends' mums, who we also know, he is not very well. So that's the basis of the card that I'm going to make. I'll probably save that till later. So I've got, as my base card, I'm going with Rocco Rose, and that, as usual, is 8 by 6, scored at 4 on the long side. To give me my card base. Then inside I'm going to use a piece of this Designer Series paper, which is just all these little bits of, I can't make out what they actually say, but it makes a really good background piece of paper. So I've cut that at, actually I've cut that at 5, normally I do 5 3/4, I've actually cut that at 5 7/8 and 3 7/8 for some reason. I obviously had a reason for that, Ollie, didn't I? I'm not quite sure what it was. Possibly because I just wanted the whole thing. That's going to be fine. It's just going to cover up the majority of my base card. As long as I can stick it fairly straight, that would be a plan, wouldn't it? So I'm just going to stick that in with my snail. I don't think you want to get too close with that. I can see it's going a little bit. Oh no, that's all right. I surprise myself at times. There we go. So this is going to be my inside of the card, and I have cut that at 5.5 by 3.5, as I usually do. Who knows what went on there? I'm hoping you do. Do you know what went on? No. Okay. So I'm using the Daisy Lane suite. No, not suite. Daisy Lane stamp set, and I'm just taking this little one because I want to put a little bit of detail on the corner of the inside piece of card where I'm going to put my greeting and write a message. So I'm going to put some Rocco Rose on that. Oh, I just found that piece of that's quite dark actually. Go with that. So I'm not going to put it all on. I keep telling you, you should get all nicely washed and brushed before we start filming. This is not the time for you to sit up there having a nice wash. It should all be done before we start. One of us needs to be prepared for these videos. It's certainly not me. So I've put that on there, and I need to put my sentiment on there. So I'm going with the Get Well Soon from the Healing Hugs stamp set. Now don't get too stressed over the fact that I'm producing stamp set after stamp set. Primarily the card is featuring the Daisy Lane stamp set, and then basically it is for you to put your whatever sentiment that you want on it. Because I'm actually sharing with you a card that's going off to somebody, I'm sort of using the stamp sets that sort of suit the card that I'm making. But you know, please don't stress, you haven't got to go out and buy 4 different stamp sets just to make this card. So I've got the old style Healing Hugs stamp set, so this is not a cling stamp, so I've got to stick it on with a bit of my lip salve. It's times like this that I'm really thankful for the fact we now have cling stamps. Ideally, I want that a bit, want to get it straight. Normally this bit's the easy bit. There you go. So I'm going to just stick that in the middle ish. Is that it then, Neil? No, you haven't quite finished. I thought you were all clean and presentable then. Obviously not. So I'm going just to stick that into the middle of the card. It's like stereo, isn't it? There's a message on there and a message on my phone. So I have a slight problem because I've stuck a bit of ink on there. So rather than just do the whole thing again, I'm going to just add another couple of daisies. Just not going to stick that on there. It's nothing like a live video, is it? And it all goes pear-shaped. Okay. trying to make this look like this is what I meant to do. That will do. It's not perfect, but it will do. So I'm going to put that up there, and now I'm going to move on to the front of the card, and I need for that 4 of the medium sized daisies. Stamping that off onto Rocco Rose card with the Rocco Rose ink, and I'm doing a full ink and then I'm stamping it off, and I'm doing another full ink and then I'm stamping it off. And I'm going to colour, well not colour, but I'm going to add Wink of Stella to each one of these daisies. I'm only going to put it on the actual petals because I'm going to be putting something else in the middle of the flower. So there's no point putting Wink of Stella in somewhere that you're not going to see it. Now, because this is quite a dark colour in the first stamping, it will act as a sort of a blender pen as well, but that's sort of not, that isn't a problem. What we're trying to achieve is actually a 4 layered flower. So we want some sort of nice dark elements at the bottom of the flower. So we're just going to pause the video at that point so I can then colour in the rest of my flowers, and I will cut 3 of them out and I'll come back and just cut the last one out on, or punch the last one out on camera. Yeah, did it really take me that long? I think it probably kind of did, if I'm honest, and I'm going to explain why it took me that long. And also, unfortunately, because somebody tried to phone me and it's come through on the tablet, the video didn't get paused, it got stopped. So nothing's ever straightforward in my life, is it? So I've cut 4 of them, 3 of them out even, and I've put Wink of Stella over all of them. So I've got 2 lighter coloured ones and I've got 2 darker coloured ones, and I'm just going to cut the other dark one out using my medium daisy punch. I'm just lining it up with the petals. And stamping it out. So, great workout for your hands. So before I go any further, earlier the inside of the card went, as we know, slightly wrong, and when we stopped filming, Jim said to me, "Why didn't you use a post-it note?" And I was like, yeah, what a good idea that would have been. Which would have been, yeah, it would have made life a lot easier, but I sort of just saw it and I think basically I panicked. So whilst we've been off camera, I have indeed used a post-it note, and 3 post-it notes, and what I've done is I've just filled in as best I can using that stamp to just make that into a complete daisy up the top there, and then I have used the Wink of Stella to just highlight all the daisies, and I've just used it more as a blender pen to just colour in the tiny bits that were missing. So yeah, if you look closely, no, it's not perfect, but it's okay. I think that's actually, that looks a lot better than it did when I put it aside earlier. And at the end of the day, the recipient isn't going to know. you all will, whoever watches my video will know, but um, there's a lot of times we do get ink and things happen, and it's quite handy, I think, sometimes when that does, because it just helps us to see how we can get ourselves out of a mess. So tip we've learned from today is never be without a post-it note. And I'm rapidly coming to the conclusion that I'm going to have to learn how to do the filming, and you're gonna be sitting here in the not too distant future. So I'm just going to do the front of the card. It's nice to know that you're obviously paying attention, which is more than Ollie is. Let me just check the size of this. Okay, so yeah, I cut this again. I really don't know what I did, why I was doing this, but instead of 5 3/4, I've gone for 5 7/8. But I've cut it, and I'm going to go with it. What's going on? Okay. One of my moments, my many moments of not knowing what I'm doing. So I've got to be careful that that is the writing's that this way up, so I don't. The last thing I actually want to do is stick it the wrong way up. So I've got my card like that, so it's upside down as I stick it. It's a very minimal border of the Rocco rose around the outside. Which is fine, because this is obviously Rocco rose at the back, and there's a lot of the actual card you can still see. So I'm using this one out of the designer series paper. Now, comparing that to, I've cut that down so that it's smaller, because I need it to fit on my card. If you just want to use the complete card front, then obviously you'd have to make your card the size accordingly that would fit that. I'm sticking with my normal card size, so therefore I have to cut this down and get it to a point where I've not lost too much of the flower. I've lost a little bit of that yellow one, but I've got everything else in. Post-it notes out of the way. So I've got to be honest, the way I did this, I finished up with, oh, that's why I did that longer, because I've actually got a 4 3/4. No, that still doesn't make sense, but anyway, never mind. 3 3/4. Yeah, I think that's why I've done it, because it would normally be 3 3/4, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'm talking to myself here, but my line here would normally be 3 3/4 for my base card, or my base bit of paper, and then I would then be layering with a smaller bit on the top. But to get this amount of detail in, I've had to make this bigger. So yeah, it's all coming back to me now. This is why I did it. So I have basically, with my trimmer, I have sort of literally just trimmed up as far as I could get to, so here, but then it was too big, so I've had to cut a little bit more off of this side, and then I've trimmed the edges down so that we finish up with a piece of paper that has got all your design on it, but will fit within the card base that you want it to. So although that bit's cut off, I still think that looks better that way up, so I'm going to stick it that way up. I'm glad it wasn't just a senior moment. I did have a reason for those measurements. So I'm going to stick that in the middle, ish. You had enough? What's going on out there? Whoops! You fall off? Did you? Are you okay? You're supposed to be sure-footed. You right? You poor boy, aren't you? Or were you just trying to build your part up? Was that what it was all about? So what I want to do is I've made one flower and I want to duplicate that. So I want the two darker bits of the petals, I want those at the bottom and I want the lighter ones at the top. Now the first dark one, I'm just going to curl up with my bone folder. And then the second dark one, I'm actually going to do it the other way, so I'm turning it over because I want the petals to be bending downwards. So you can do it this way. I've automatically turned it back to the pattern, so, but I'm going that way. Or you can turn it over and go the way that you would normally do. It's kind of back to front, so I'm easier for me to do it that way. So I've got one that's going downwards and I've got one that's going upwards. I'm then going to stick a Stampin' dimensional on the back here of the one that's going downwards. And then I'm going to stick another one on top of that, ideally marrying up the shape of it. So I've got this one bending down and I'm going to attach that. I'm going to take the back off of this. Then I'm going to stick it onto the one with the petals coming upwards. But what I've got to do is I've got to get the petals in between each other, so not on top but between. It doesn't matter if it flattens a bit because you can always reshape it once you've got it stuck together. So you can see there I've got petals going in different directions. So you can just pull these up and push down the ones that are meant to be going downwards. Just gives it a little bit of texture, I suppose. Something I've forgotten, but that won't surprise you. Something that's quite important. So with this one, I'm going to, this is the third of the light ones, and I'm going to go upwards as I would normally do, but only on a fairly small amount of bend on that. Can you keep our viewers entertained, Ollie, for 5 minutes? Have you recovered? Well, it won't be 5 minutes. I'm just going to nip to get some glue dots. You are a poor boy, aren't you? Are you all right now? How did you fall off of a shelf? Oh, poor baby. You see, if you'd stayed where you were meant to be and directing the video, we wouldn't have all this trouble, would we? You wouldn't be falling off of things. Never mind. You're all right, aren't you?
He's purring.
Otherwise I'll be getting messages and going, is Ollie all right? Because we know people only watch the videos for you. We could do a whole Ollie video. So I have glue dots and I'm just going to stick one glue dot on the bottom of the one that I've just curled up. Attempt to stick a glue dot on there. Tell you what, I'm going to go this way. It's one of those days. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put 2 glue dots on there. And I'm going to now match that up with the bottom layer of the petals. So I'm still sort of building around. So that will be the ones that are pointing upwards. And then on my final flower, I've got my foam out of my big shot brush, which isn't available now, I have to say, because it's now part of the take your pick tool. But any piece of foam will do. And this is a take your pick tool, and I've added the larger or the thicker stylus bit onto the end of that with the box. And I'm going to put the flower head on there, and then I'm just going to gently I'm trying to really bring these petals up, so that's having a lot of it's bending a lot more than when I use my whatever it's called, bone folder. Sorry, I need to be able to steady the flower, because if I don't do that, you can in danger of it sort of tearing, because it is only card. So this is going to an extreme. I'm obviously not going to be putting a flower head on like this, but this is great if you're making something like a home decor piece and you really want some petals that are standing out and building a flower. This is a really great tool for that. So I've gone to the extreme of that, but it's not going to stay as curled as that, but I just wanted the top layer of my flower to have a lot more curl to it than just using my bone folder. Sorry. I'd like to say it's organised chaos, but it's just chaos. So I'm just sticking a couple of big glue dots on there to hold it in place. Now I know you should take your whatever you're trying to stick to your glue dot, but I had trouble with this last time I used Rocco Rose and it was having none of it, so I'm just going with sticking it on with my fingers. Right, so I'm going now to, I need to go in between the one that I've just stuck on, so that is in theory going to match up with the ones that are curling downwards. So then we have a nice fully layered flower, and you can tidy up as it's now all together. So just make sure you've got everything going in the right direction. Unfortunately, this card's got to go through the post, so be pretty sure it's not going to be quite as perfect by the time it gets there, but never mind. So for the middle of it, I'm using one of these Perennial Essence Floral Centres. So these are the little daisy centres, and I've gone with that rather than the faceted gems that I tend to favour, because that very much marries up with the daisy centre that we've got on the front of the card there. So I thought it kind of matched a lot better. So these have got their own little sticky bits on the back, so it's just a case of removing that, and then we're putting it into the centre of the flower. So we have 2 daisies. I have to say these are quite authentic. They're quite furry. They're like felty centres that you. So they mirror quite well the flower centre of a daisy. So the next thing I want is some leaves. I've cut out 2 lots. So I'll take my Mossy Meadow piece of card. Now you could just, with your leaf punch, which is this one, you could just cut out the leaf. There's no reason why you shouldn't just have a leaf with no detail on it. So that's what I was saying earlier, you don't need all these stamp sets that I'm using, but because I happen to have them and because I wanted to sort of just make sure the card was as good as it could be, I'm going to add some leaf detail, and I'm using the leaf stamp here from the Floral Essence stamp set, and I'm just going to I'm going to stamp that onto the card with some Mossy Meadow ink. My daisies out of the way. So I've got 2 lots, so I want 2 more sets of flowers. And I'm just going to stamp that onto the Right, that looks darker. I think I actually stamped it off. So I've actually stamped it off. So I want that one, not that one. So I'll stamp it off on there, and I will stamp it off on there. I'm doing it on the side of the card because it's obviously a lot easier to then just get my punch in there. So with my leaf punch, I'm just going to put that on top of the stamp. And I've got 2 more sets of leaves, and I'm just going to give those a little bit of a bit of life to them, and I'm going to just bend along the centre there. I'm just going to bend them up against my bone folder, just so they stand out a little bit, or stand up a little bit. And the final thing we need is a sentiment to go on the front, and I chose this one, Wishing You Brighter Days to Come, and I've got that out of the Beautiful You stamp set. So there's 2 boxes basically of the stamps, and this is in the first one, but you get all of them if you order that one. So I've gone with that, and I've just stamped that with Merry Merlot onto Rocco Rose cardstock, and I've cut that out using one of the smaller layering oval framelits. I think it was that one, maybe not. I think it might have been that one. There we go. Yeah, so it's about the third of the crinkly one, third one up, which measures about approximately 1.5 inches across. Now I've gone with that because you've obviously got an oval shape here, so I thought that would work quite well in the middle. But there's another option if you haven't got a big shop. Think about a punch, and this is just the label punch, and I've done the same thing. I've put that on with Merry Merlot onto Rocco Rose, and I've cut that out using the everyday label punch, which is this one, and that would fit quite nicely into the middle of the card as well. So I was just looking at other ways. I'm going to stick with that, but there's no reason why you can't make this card. You don't need a big shot to do it. You can make it all just using punches. So I think I might do the flowers first. So my plan is, do I have a plan? Kind of a plan. Is, I was trying to, how long is it? 23 minutes. Is that the second part of it, or is that, oh dear, it's not good, is it? I promised everyone a shorter video this time. And it doesn't help when the director starts throwing himself off furniture, does it? Causes this great stress. Right, I've used a glue dot there, and I'm going to put a daisy in basically each of the corners of the card, one here and one there, but I want some leaves under it. So if I aim the leaves, I don't want them coming over the card. Because they're just going to get damaged. So we'll just get another glue dot over here. I probably don't want all that stem on there. Let's just cut that off. And yeah, I think that works. So with more glue dots, so you need to order some more of these. Getting through them at a rate of knots. Obviously I want this to stick, and it's quite in card terms it's quite a heavy embellishment, so I just want to be certain that it's going to stick. So I'm being generous with my glue dots. I'm just going to stick that over there so that it's got some of the leaves poking out from underneath. So that's the first one. Now obviously that isn't going to fit into a normal envelope, because it's actually got to finish up in Wales. So I'm going to buy a padded envelope and get it sent up on there. So I'm not going to be doing an envelope to match this one. It's an ideal card, in all honesty, if you're actually seeing the person, and you can obviously change you can make whatever sentiment you want in the middle there. But I'm hoping it's a bright, cheery little card, and hope it will do the job of cheering the lady up a little bit, as much as you can be when you're under the weather. So we'll stick another one out in this direction. Again, making sure you're not going over the card there. Yeah, the edge. I'll get you to write my script. Do you think if I had a script, do you think it would go better? No, I think you're right. I think I should start doing my videos on a Wednesday, and I'll call it Wing It Wednesday. What do you think? That's a plan. So. Sticking glue is much like drying watching paint dry, isn't it? I think we're nearly there. So I had it's sort of almost diagonally across, pointing across. So I'm just being a bit OCD, I think, but I'm trying to get the petals going across like this. They're nicely stuck. It just leaves me to put the sentiment on, and thankfully that is a lot easier, and I'm just going to stick that on with some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm just going to pop that in the middle. So there we have our finished card. Now you could obviously just make that with 2 layers of daisies like we've done before on previous daisy cards. So the anniversary card I made the other week just featured 2 layers, but I thought with this one it just sort of married in quite nicely with the background card of the designer series paper. So whilst we've started off with something quite simple, it obviously got slightly complicated with the flowers, but I just wanted to show you this one very quickly. And that again, I've used the designer series paper, and this is just one of the pre-printed card fronts there, and I've just layered that up onto Mossy Meadow, Whisper White, Night of Navy, and then I've put my designer series paper on that. And all I've then done is I've stamped my sentiment on there on a piece of Night of Navy, cut it out using a stitched framelit die, I think, the oval ones with the circles, ovals and squares, and that's just been heat embossed with white stamping embossing powder, and I've just tied a little polka dots tulle ribbon and stuck that on with a glue dot. So that those 2 bits are the only added bits that I've put. The rest of it is just sticking onto card, and I've just put my little daisy stamp in the inside just to brighten up the inside, and I'm just going to sort of write a message on that. So that was a very simple card, obviously just cutting lots of bits of card out and sticking it together. So with very little effort I've finished up with quite a reasonable card. I was quite proud of the bow, I have to say. I'll make sure I'll take a photo of that before it goes. So as I say, lovely designer series paper for cards that you want to make with your own designs, but they're also really brilliant. Those sheets with the pre-printed fronts are great when you need a card in a hurry. So I think that's it. Just a couple of things. I have a new website, courtesy of Stampin' Up. It's finally been updated, which means that you can effectively just go onto the website and access all my social media and my blog from there. So I won't be sticking my various links on the front of the video. I'm looking in the wrong place as usual. Okay. Whatever. So just I'll put the link to my website on there, so you can just pop on there and you can access, as I say, my blog and all my social media. And I'll put the link to the shop as well, and obviously put some details of the products that I've used. So thanks ever so much for joining me. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. I hope it's given you a good laugh. Ollie is fast asleep. He's obviously none the worse for his little tumble. So if you've enjoyed the video, please do give me a thumbs up. That would be great. And if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, that would be brilliant as well. That means you just get notified when I've uploaded the video, and you can get to choose whether or not you want to watch that one. My blog, you can also subscribe to that, and that will include my monthly newsletter as well, so it just keeps you up to date with what is going on in the world of Stampin' Up, and in my world. Not sure that's a good thing, but anyway, so I think that is it for now. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing next time, but I'll be thinking of something and I'll be back to share that with you. So from a very sleepy director, and from my Very efficient cameraman. And for myself, I will see you again very soon. Just one final thing, I'll have the link for the shop on the front, as I said, and obviously anything I've used today can be bought from my online shop. So thanks again, and I will catch up with you very soon. But until then, take care. Bye.